It's really fun. But we're going today to the Dingle nursery, which is a fantastic nursery out towards Powys in Wales. I've been there before. We did a video on the best trees for your garden. But today we're going out there. We're going to pick some bare root hedging up. We're planning on planting a beech hedge, and we thought it would be quite nice to do copper beech this time. We've got just the green beech, but we thought we'd do Ficus slavatica purpurea. So we're going to go and pick that up, and while we're there, it's always fun to go and have a look at lots of the other stock that they've got. They've got some beautiful trees there, so it's like being in a sweetie shop for me. I just love it. I get really excited. So it's a beautiful day and we're on our way. It's really worth finding a good independent grower or nursery near you. Far better than the big chains, because you can get good bargains. They're much cheaper to buy, but you can buy them wholesale. The stock's usually much better. There's better variety, and if you befriend them, get to know them, you'll get really good some really good prices. So always know when you're going to a place like this, it's always good to know what exactly it is you want. So we've got a list that we've formulated before we go, so we know what we're looking for. We can ask. Always also good to know the Latin names if you can, because that makes you look a bit as if you know what you're talking about a bit more. So so we've got a list together, and we're on our way there now. So I've got my little Murphy's Garden rough notes notebook, and in this I just jot, it's a bit of a mess really, but I just got little squiggly plans and things that I'd like to play around with, different ideas. And I've got a list here of things that we saw at Chelsea, nice plants that I thought looked lovely, and just to see what they've got at the Dingle. And then I've got a little shopping list here. Well, it's a big shopping list. I'm certainly not buying everything on here, but just want to get some ideas. So I've got to get some plastic pots. So that's going to be for the area. So the new area that we're designing. This is the tree that we're planting, so that's going to be in a bottomless plastic pot. You won't see the pot, it's going to be hidden around this box hedging. So I just need basically 2 plain black pots. So I kind of thought, instead of buying a black pot, which I saw yesterday, which was £9.99, if I want any more trees, it would be good to buy the required tree in a pot, and then I can use the pot and just put the plant in the vegetable garden and use the pot. So that's, you know, it seems silly buying an empty pot when I can get a free pot with a tree. So that's the plan. I want to look at olive trees. We were thinking the new area that we designed last year, that's got a kind of Mediterranean feel to it, and we thought it would be really lovely just to have an olive tree sort of in a raised lovely pot, just to enhance that feel. And we do want to put some pergola around that area just to make it feel lovely. Japanese holly, I'm looking at different ideas for another hedge around the new area, so just want to see what they've got there. Also, while I'm there, I'd like to see if they've got any blight resistant box. We have got a lot of box in the garden, and I'm always aware that if we got box blight, it would be a problem. So these are the 2 varieties. There's Heritage Renaissance, and that's quite a slow growing upright box. And then there's another one, Skylight, also an upright one. And then there's these prostrate ones, which I don't really want, that Babylon Beauty. So it's probably Skylight or Heritage that I'm looking at. And then I also want to have a look at grasses. So in the sunken garden, we've got the area where I took out the pheasant grass, which was self-seeding all over the garden. So I want to look at different options, perhaps some miscanthus or penstemon. These just a few ones that we saw at Chelsea, so just want to have a look and see what they've got. Heptacodium was another tree that was seen a lot at Chelsea. Again, I want to just have a look and see if they've got one. This is another one that was crepe myrtle, which looked nice, and then the Perotica persica. Also, we were looking perhaps at getting another 2. Having done the video on trees, we've got the Betula Utilis Giacomonti single stemmed. We kind of thought we got, I think we've got, how many have we got? I think we've got 5 trees. We did buy 6 and one of them died, and there's a gap where the one that died perhaps needs another tree there, and it would be lovely to get some multi-stemmed ones just to bring the height down a little bit. And I think, having done some research on it, is you can plant them really quite tight together and it just gives a better look. So if we'll just have a look to see what they've got, and then there's just a few other grasses and various other things, and then the Fagus levatica purpurea, so that's the beech, and that's the distance. So it's 23.4 meters, so I calculated that would be 5 per meter, 117, round that up to about 120. So that's what we're going to look at today. So as well as going here to get the things that we need, I just find this is a really good opportunity to learn new things. So I make a list of things, plants and things that I've seen, some of them at Chelsea and various places where I notice new plants, and then I look out for them at the nursery and just sort of learn more about them. It may not be something I want to use straight away, but perhaps for projects in the future. So one of the first things we saw on arrival at the nursery were these spiral topiary Leyland cypress. It gave us a good idea because although we do have two spiral trees already in the garden, we've got some Leylandi hedging that we plan on removing, and so we thought it might be a good idea to use the opportunity to perhaps pot these on and experiment with some topiarized shapes and just see what we can come up with. It's a good way of increasing the value of what is effectively a very cheap plant. Just a Leyland plant's quite cheap, but once you start to topiarize it and form some nice shapes, the price increases considerably. So we thought we'd just have a go with that. So we then saw this very beautiful olive tree with this characteristic gnarly old bark. And we've been thinking about getting an olive tree, as I said before, for the sort of Mediterranean garden to give it that Mediterranean feel. But this tree was very expensive. So we then looked at a more juvenile tree and saw that perhaps after a period of time it would eventually form that nice look with an gnarly bark. But olive trees do need shelter, and at the moment the hedging's still quite low in that area, so we thought that perhaps it's not a good time to buy it. We'll let the hedges grow up a little bit first and then perhaps think about getting an olive tree. So on the subject of gnarly old barks, we then saw this beautiful tree. This is a cork oak, and I've never actually seen one close up before, and the bark is lovely. It's used in the cork industry. I don't really know much about this tree, and although it does look lovely, I suspect it gets very large, and this one indeed was already quite large, so that was something I wouldn't just buy, but needed further investigation, but I suspect it would be a bit too big for that area. So we then saw these lovely Betula Giacomonti, and they were the multi-stemmed ones that we were after. They were a really good size, also a good price. Wanted ones that weren't too big, partly to get them in the van for one thing, but also the previous tree, the single stemmed ones that we got, they were so tall, and they were very sort of top heavy, and they were quite difficult to establish in the garden, particularly when it was very windy. So I was quite keen just to get smaller trees that would be far easier to plant, and also probably wouldn't require much staking. So another plant that we saw was this lovely Cornuscusa chinensis, and having done the tree video, this was a tree that I do really want to get in the future, but we're not quite ready for it yet, but this was a particularly nice one that we saw. So another plant we saw was this Nandina domestica, also known as heavenly bamboo. This is a plant that I'm not overly familiar with, but Alistair's seen growing in other people's gardens and particularly liked it. It has this lovely colour, this bright red stems. It has a similar characteristic to bamboo, but it isn't bamboo. It's not invasive at all, it's clump forming, and it just gives really nice colour. So that's something that we thought looked really nice. So at the end of our trip to the nursery, the things that we decided to buy were the beech hedging, which was the main reason for coming. So that's the Fagus levatica, the purpurea. So we also got the Nandina domestica, this one's called Far Par, and we just got a very small pot, so it was relatively inexpensive to buy, but it's already got this lovely colour in the leaves, so that's something that we'll just put in the old vegetable patch and bring that on a bit until we're ready for it. The other plant that we got was the Sarcococca hookeriana purple stem. So this is also known as winter box. So it's got these nice long leaves, and it will have flowers, and it also does quite well in a shaded area. So we thought this would be an ideal plant to try and propagate from and produce some more plants to produce a little hedge around the new area. So we'll put a nice big clump of a plant, and we'll try and take cuttings from that. So the next plant was this Miscanthus sinensis. Now there was no label on this plant, and the staff at the nursery weren't really sure what type it was. However, I do remember seeing it when Olivia and I visited the nursery in the autumn, when it was in its all its splendour in the autumn with its autumn colours, and I really liked it. So I was pretty confident that this was the same one. So I've gone ahead and bought it, and it's a really big clump. So my plan is to split that into two and get 2 plants which will go into the sunken garden. Finally, we bought these Betula utilis subspecies Giacomonti, the 2 lovely multi-stem silver birch trees. So really pleased with those. They're a good size and just what we were after. So all in all, really pleased with our purchases, and now we just need to get home and get things planted and see what they look like in the garden. Thank you very much for watching, and join us again in the next video. Bye for now.